Welcome back to the rules of engagement. We've just been going over TVT, mech versus bio. We just talked about some of the key things to look at when you're playing mech versus bio, opening your build order or unit composition, kind of how to progress to the fourth base. Now we're going to take a look at how to play that from the bio standpoint, from the beginning game to kind of like the middle of the game. Basically, the important key aspects when playing a bio Terran against a mech Terran. We're going to talk about early game investments and cautions, things you got to be cautioned about. Potential army compositions, and then, of course, short-term goals and how those can be very important when you're playing bio versus mech. Before we jump into this segment, though, let me remind you guys, tweet me any questions you have. Go to my Twitter's @axslav. Tweet me any questions. We'll answer them on the fourth segment of this show to give range from strategy about TVT, a different matchup, opinions on HOTS, tournaments, whatever's going on. Tweet at me anything you want answered. End of this show, they'll be answered. But now let's jump into this replay on the bio side of how to play bio versus mech. So we're going to take a look at this at the 11-minute mark. And first, we're going to take a look at some early game investments and some cautions. I know earlier we talked about how the mech player can often have this stronger army, right? We can take a look at the army resource tab here. You can see here that the mech player actually has more units. So even when you're going bio, you have to understand that when you're going bio, you're grabbing all these early upgrades, right? You're grabbing combat shield, stim, attack. I mentioned this from the mech side, but from the bio side, it's important to not be too cocky. A lot of times, as a bio Terran, as soon as you realize your opponent's going mech, you're like, oh, they're going mech. It's no rush 15 minutes. It's not always 100% true because you've got to get all those upgrades in your bio. Up until these 4 upgrades complete, you're not going to be insanely strong. So be a little bit cautious. It's okay to have a little bit later with third base as long as you don't lose too many units, and slowly but surely work your way out there. So the next thing I want to talk about is potential army compositions. So, in general, you want to grab those siege tanks. We can see that's what Innovation did, the 3 siege tanks here. We can see how important they are in basically keeping his bio safe against the Hellions. Sometimes you can go pure bio, right? You got to go a lot of Marauders, a lot of Marines. You can skip the siege tanks. Then you're more mobile, yeah, but it's a little bit harder to defend attacks like this. It's harder to control space, right? So in general, if you see Polt, you want to try to copy Polt, go for it. But if you just want to play a very solid bio versus mech, still get siege tanks. The difference is 1 factory as opposed to your opponent's 4. So you're not going to have as much mech as them. You're going to still go almost all bio, right? Mostly barracks is here. And the reason why you want to go mostly bio is so you have the mobility to do things like draw play, right? You want to be able to work in that mobility. That's very important, so you can try to harass them. Of course, this time it didn't work out too well, but mobility is very important. But you still want to have some siege tanks so you can control space, right? You want to have siege tanks here just to make sure they can't, like, they might have done a 2-base mech. I mean, now he knows now he knows Flash didn't, but they might do a 2-base mech push, right? And if they get their Hellions to buffer and then the tanks in siege position up here, then you're going to have to try to bust the siege tank line. You lose a lot of SCVs. It's not fun. But if you have your own tanks here, that can hold that position, make it much more costly for your opponent to get up there. Or even if, let's say, you're going biomech and you're able to get tanks in front of their base. You can cut off their natural from their third with siege tanks. You can hold that position right here, and then you can just push down into their third base. So, in general, you want to add in those tanks, a few, just constant 1 factory production. I mean, there he goes, another tank. Constant 1 factory production, so you still have the mobility advantage from going predominantly bio, but you have a few tanks, so if you need to hold a key position, you can do so. Now, going forward, the next thing to talk about is short-term goals, right? The one thing you're thinking is, oh, if he gets to 200 food mech death ball, I'm in trouble, right? Mech late game is in most cases, a little bit stronger than bio late game. Of course, you can transition yourself to air or more tanks of your own, but in general, the mech's slightly stronger as the game progresses. So you're like, okay, I've got to end the game before then. How can I end the game? And you want to say, okay, I'll load up everything and run to his base. Or wait a minute, he has Vikings. That can't work. So you don't always need to look for like a game-winning move, because there won't always be one. Against a player like Flash, you won't have this move where like, oh, he's going mech, so I need to end the game early. Let's grab all my stuff and go attack him. No, I mean, right now, let's pause it. If you grab all his SCVs and attack them, Flash actually has a bigger army, right? I mean, he's not going to break 11 tanks and 20 Hellions by pulling his SCVs. This is not going to work. So you don't always have to look for that game-winning move. What you want to do is do what you're doing right here, what Innovation is doing right here. You want to look for ways to constantly make even army trades, right? You want to constantly trade armies, but you also want to make sure you're not just getting hammered every army trade. So right here, he's poking in, seeing if he can get an even army trade. It turns out there's too much, so he backs away. But constantly looking to trade, okay, 100 resources for 100 resources. 1,000 resources for 1,000 resources. That's actually keeping his team lost out. So far, he's a little bit behind, and that's because that double drop here didn't work at all. So going forward, he's sharking around, looking for a small engagement, right? Where he can get in there, trade off some units, but it's not going to be a gigantic army clash, unless, of course, he can catch his opponent on siege or something. So the reason why you want to do that is because as the army sizes get smaller, let's speed this up a tiny bit, right? So right here, he's going to come in here, engage, try to trade off a few units, right? He's killing the Hellions. Tank siege up, he backs away, right? And we can see even trade. Look at the units resources lost. It's very, very close to being even. So small trades like that, of course, now he's to back up from this Banshee in just a moment, perhaps waiting to kill this refinery first. Small trades like this are good because you want to keep the army small, right? As you can see here, the tank count, it's not super high. It can hold one position, but it can't hold two. Right? If you keep the army small, you'll create openings, right? The less units they have, the thinner their defense will be, the more likely there's going to be a hole somewhere in their defenses. And you can go in there, you can find a hole. Then, of course, because Flash doesn't have an insane army, he's got 180 food, but so much of it is in production, right? So he has to go here, push these back, and there's another hole, right? Every time you get a small trade, in fact, this back up there's another small trade there. You want to do that. See 4 tanks in siege mode? Okay, I'll lose guys. And I know I might lose as many guys as those 4 siege tanks cost, but that's okay. Because it's an even trade, and I want to keep the army sizes small. The longer I keep the army sizes small, the more likely there'll be openings to get in more damage. I can try to sneak a drop in. And, you know, the drop's not going to end the game, right? Flash will just use some rally units, so clean this up without too much of a problem. But it's another small trade. Keeping these small trades prevents the mech army from getting huge. The longer the mech army stays smaller, you can kind of starve your opponent out. Small trade, small trade, small trade. You know, you take another expansion, and then, of course, he actually wants to take probably another expansion. This one can fly out, take one of the corners. And if you keep the mech army small, right, from here, let's look. What's Flash going to do? Let's actually bring up this map again, right? And we'll talk about the situation Flash is in. So right now, Flash has pretty much a small army, right? He's stuck defending this zone right here. This is a Flash zone, right? We'll put a big F on it. It's a Flash zone. In order to grow this zone out, right? In order to push this zone out and take another base, right? Maybe over here, or if he can push it out far enough, he can take this base, right? In order to push that out, what Flash needs is he needs to grow his army to stabilize until he has extra units, right? He has to defend. Let's actually erase this nonsense here for a second so it's easier to see. What he has to do is he has to defend this zone. Basically, oops, we switched to yellow. Oh, well. He has to defend these 2 zones pretty much, are the 2 important areas, right? Once he can stabilize in both of those, then he can start pushing out, right? So once this is safe, he can start pushing out this way. So what you, as a bio player, want to do is make sure he can never totally stabilize everywhere he's trying to defend. If it goes into a base race, the bio player is normally going to win. There are some circumstances, but normally bio player is going to win that. Because they can have the base at the corners, they have the more mobile army, they have an easier time switching into air because if they can just sneak in some hidden starports to get more Vikings, their opponent has no answer to air, whereas they still have Marines if their opponent has air. So they're generally going to win. So the mech player is going to play passive, try to stabilize, then slowly push out. So what you want to do is keep trading, keep the army small, and then there'll be more holes in their defenses because they can't cover both these spots and push out to take that 5th base. So that pretty much covers the basic goal of playing bio versus mech. Remember, you're not always trying to win the game with one blow. A lot of small army trades, and eventually you'll wear them down. Take a short break, then we'll go on to our next section where we talk about the positional game in TVT.